Hey guys, I wanted to make a video today where I talk about the absolute worst businesses to start. Let's face it, there's millions of videos on the internet of people talking about the best businesses to start. Do this, try this, do that. But nobody talks about the worst businesses to start. I'm going to make this video so that you can be free and clear from all the businesses that are going to A, waste your time, B, waste your money, and C, give you a stroke because of how stressful it's going to be. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to go over this tier list here that I found online of the best businesses to start with a whole bunch of different options. I'm going to rank them, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start off with actually what do I look for when I start a business online? Every single person watching this YouTube channel right now is watching it because you want to make money. Let's not beat around the bush here. You want to make money. You want to get rich. You want to at least be comfortable, at the very least. Maybe you can't picture yourself being rich, but trust me, it's possible. But maybe you just want to be comfortable. So what are you supposed to even look for when you look for a business? Well, let me tell you what I look for, okay? And this is, I think, the skill that has kind of helped me with time, because there were times where I picked some pretty bad businesses to be involved in, all right? So what do I look for? The first thing I look for is a high percentage of yield in profit. What does that mean? I'm not really concerned about how much money the business gives me. You understand? I don't care if it's 10K a month. I don't care if it's 1K a month. Of course, the more the merrier. I'm not going to sit here and BS you, right? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Of course, I would want more money. But what I really pay attention to, for me, what has to be a requirement is the percentage of profit that I'm going to make. That's exactly what I'm saying here. So, for example, if there's a business that I know is going to make me $20 a month, okay, and $20 a month is nothing, but let's just say $20 a month, and it's zero cost, then I'm going to do it. Okay, now assuming that it requires almost no energy of mine, which is something that's fine. I'm going to do it, right? It's not a problem. But let's say I was going to make $1 million a month in sales, but it requires all my time, all my effort, all my energy, but it's also going to cost me $980,000 a month to run, right? Which means I would make only 20 grand. I wouldn't run that business. You see the difference? Because the profit is effectively almost nothing, 2%. So it's not worth it for me. So what do I look for? The first thing is high percentage of yield in profit. The second thing, ways to automate the business so I don't have to work a long amount of time on that specific business. Now, you guys have seen me and heard me talk about this before, where I am very much pro hard work. I talk about how it's very necessary for you to work hard. And there are two people who are listening to this video. There's some people who are very accomplished, and there's people who are beginners. Maybe they just started their journey. If you just started your journey, you hear the old question, that people ask, the old outage, is it how hard you work or how smart you work? The answer is you can't work smart until you work hard. You have to work hard first to acquire the right information, the right knowledge through experience, or maybe somebody handed it to you, whatever the case may be, but you have to do the work first, the hard work first, in order to work the knowledge, or in order to acquire the knowledge. So yes, there are two people listening, people who are, like I said, are very accomplished, and people who are beginners who might not know too much. If you don't know too much, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to go through that phase of extreme I guess you can say effort before you reach the point where you know what you're doing. So I personally, at this point in my life, don't look at a business and say, yeah, I prefer hardworking businesses that require long amount of hours, long amount of labor, low amounts of income. It doesn't logically make sense to me. So with that criteria in mind, let's start now going over different businesses that I would avoid like the plague in 2025 and beyond. Okay, now why am I saying this? Notice what I titled the video here, the worst businesses to start and rely on. You do not want to rely on businesses like this. If you have these businesses, fine. If they make you money, fine. But you don't want to rely on them. You want to be able to diversify, and more importantly, especially if you have any of these businesses, and if you're even thinking about starting these businesses, think again. All right, so let's go ahead and start. The first one is freelancing. Freelancing, okay, is what I call modern slavery. Absolutely, modern slavery. Why do I call it that? Now, some people might think I'm a little extreme when I say that, but it's not the case. If you go out there and you be a freelancer today, think about where you're going to go. You're going to go to Fiverr.com, which is, once again, modern slavery. You're going to go to Upwork. You're going to go to all these sites. If you're a Westerner, it doesn't make sense, first off, for you to be there. Why? Because you're competing with people who can work for a fraction of what you're going to work for and who can work longer hours and, once again, make a fraction of what you're making. So that's, first off, not an ideal situation. You're suffering from like quadruple inflation. If you're working and you need a minimum of, let's say, $20 an hour for your work, but the guy from India needs a minimum of $4 an hour, who do you think is going to win the bid? The guy from India. And here's the thing. You do not belong on a site like that because you can't afford $4 an hour. And you're not going to be able to show off your skills at such a point where you say, hey, I deserve 5 times more than the guy from India. You're just not going to be able to. Even if the guy from India is worse than you, they're still going to pick that guy from India because he costs less. Do you understand? That's first off. Second thing with freelancing is slowly coming to an end. I can't tell you how many jobs have been wiped out over the last 2 years because of AI, and they're going to be continued to be wiped out. I myself am creating AI agent tools that do work for me. You guys saw the tool in our WAP members area where people get to create and design or use AI to create their own t-shirt designs. You don't even have to make your own t-shirt design anymore if you're in the print-on-demand space. You don't have to make your own articles. You don't have to write copy anymore. You don't have to do any of these things. AI is involved in all this kind of stuff. So freelancing is a no-go. Now, what's a glorified version of freelancing? It's running an agency. Agencies worked back in 2014, 2015, and they were the talk of the town, partially because Tai Lopez kind of promoted it. But agency is just a glorified version of modern slavery. And what is modern slavery, like I call it? Freelancing. So you wrap this idea, I'll call it an agency, but really what you're doing is you're just like a butler for somebody. That's really what you are. If they tell you recreate this website 400 times, you're going to have to sit there and do it. You're going to have to bend over backwards like a slave, right? Because they choose when to pay you. When they're actually when they feel like they fully are appreciative of the work that you do. Now, here's the thing. You might do all the necessary work, and you might do it right. But here's the thing. The people who pay you, they'll be like, no, I want to change this, or I want to change that. And even if it's not part of your work assignment, you're going to still have to do it anyway because they hold the keys to you getting paid. Anybody who's done work on Fiverr ever understands this. I can't tell you how many messages of people message me, and I don't even talk about Fiverr. I don't make Fiverr videos, but people who post, Fiverr gigs, they say, I did everything I have to do. I don't know what to do. The guy doesn't want to pay me, and he's asking for a refund, and he's going to contact Fiverr, and Fiverr's not going to pay me regardless, no matter what the situation is. And, welcome to the world of slavery. That's really what it is. I'm not exaggerating when I say it. But if you're a freelancer, there's only one problem you have, which is your marketing. Instead, if you truly knew what you were doing at a high level, you would just do it for yourself. You wouldn't go do it for other people. You would do it for yourself. You make money for yourself. And this includes all kinds of ad agencies and freelancing, running ads, doing marketing, writing books for people, all that kind of stuff. If you knew what you're doing, you'd do it for yourself. I love when gurus, influencers say, oh, I worked as a freelancer. What you're basically saying is you lack skills. You lack skills to be able to have the responsibility to own your own business. You see what I'm saying? So what you need to do is you need to go back to the drawing board, see what skills you're lacking, master them, acquire them, and use them for yourself and make your own money, roll off into the sunset, and never have to beg for a dollar again, because that's essentially what freelancing is. Okay? So freelancing and running an agency is totally off the mark. And I want to say something. The reason why the agency world is so hyped and so promoted, right? And there's so much attention towards it, and people make so many videos about it, and they talk about AI agencies and this and that, is because the hardest thing about running an agency is acquiring the customer. You have to understand this. It's acquiring the customer. And there wouldn't be a market about freelancing if they had not if they had already showed you how to acquire the customer with ease. Do you understand? So there are videos online right now that make millions of dollars teaching other people how to run an agency. Yeah? And you might go and watch these videos and you might buy a course for $5,000, $10,000. You might buy some copywriting sheets and sales tactics and how to get somebody on the phone and how to close leads for your AI agency and all this nonsense, right? But really, the reason why you're even watching content like that, you're searching content, is because you don't know how to close a customer. And the truth is that if those people gave you that information, then they'd be out of business, because all they're doing is selling you a dream, or I don't want to say a dream, but they're selling you a picture, a painting, that they'll teach you how to run an AI agency, but they'll leave out the important parts of how to actually get customers. See, the real world, in the agency world, no agency goes out there that is worth its weight and gets paid $10, $100, $1,000 for a service. Nobody does that. If you go to New York City, Madison Avenue, for example, you got companies like Clorox hiring ad agencies for $100 million, and they'll sign a 4-month contract, for example. And those contracts are backed by law. They're not the type of things that you could just back out of and say, oh, you know what, we don't feel like it. No, these things are backed. Hundreds of millions of dollars a contract. That's what the ad agency, or the agency in general world, looks like. The marketing agency world looks like. It doesn't look like, hey, give me $1,500. I'll write some articles for you. I'll do some work for you. That's once again called glorified freelancing, which is just nothing more than modern slavery. So I'm not into that at all. Do I recommend it? No, absolutely. It's so bad I wouldn't even recommend it to my worst enemy. Do you understand how bad that is? And sorry I'm speaking with passion, but it's absolutely the truth. Next, Airbnb and Airbnb co-listing. This goes for the whole entire Airbnb niche. Any kind of these short-term rental kind of things, this is one of the worst businesses to be in if you're in the United States. Why do I say that? There are local laws now where councilmen and all kinds of type of people are coming together to stop and limit short-term rentals as much as possible. I can't forget about this. When the Airbnb market was so hot, right, during the COVID era, I had some money to invest, and I found this great piece of land. It was about 50 acres. I think it was 52 acres, whatever. And I wanted to see if I could buy for Airbnb. I thought it was perfect for Airbnb. I could build like little houses, like these mini houses, tiny houses, whatever you want to call them. It would cost about $18,000 per house, put like 20 of them on there, and it would be a great business, right? Airbnb was shooting to the moon. Everybody was talking about Airbnb. Everybody booked Airbnbs. It was a thing. But then I did some research, and I found out I had to call this councilman or mayor or whoever he is. So after, some bribing, some talking to people, getting, paying some people off to get this guy's phone number, I got his phone number. I talked to him, and I basically said to him, hey, I'm interested in doing an Airbnb business in the area, in your area that you manage. And when I say bribing, by the way, I didn't mean like committing a crime. I just meant paying people to get the guy's phone number, right? He said, this is actually where the crime was. The guy wanted me to pay him to be allowed to do it. And he basically said to me, he said, it's only allowed if I say it's allowed. And basically he's kind of asking for a bribe without really spitting it out and saying it, because then it would be a crime, right? So he basically says to me, it's not really allowed unless I allow it. And, unless I say it's allowed. So I'm like, what do you mean by that? He said, well, people like to make me offers. And I said, okay, thank you. I shut the phone off. And I thought to myself, this guy is basically telling me, hey, I should pay him so that he can give me permission to then run this Airbnb business. Okay, what if I spend 6-7 figures investing into this business, and then one day he decides, you know what? We're going to cancel this whole Airbnb thing. Then what do? All this investment is gone? That's not something I'm interested in. So these laws, controlled by certain people who are unfortunately corrupt, are controlling this game of Airbnbs. And you might not know that, and you might go into a property. You might get debt to go into a property. You haven't done your due diligence. You haven't done your research. You get into this property. You find out you're not allowed to. Next thing you know, after 30 to 40 days, you get a letter from your local government, the assessor, whoever, whatever the ordinance is. You get a letter saying you can't do short-term rentals. You have to pay a fine. You have to do this. You have to do that. And also, not to mention, Airbnb is a nasty business. People come to your place, they're going to tear it up, they're going to do some nasty things there, you're going to be cleaning all kinds of crap. And let's be honest, people who actually do the whole Airbnb business, they say, well, you don't do it yourself, you hire people to do it. Well, guess what? 90% of the people who are getting into the Airbnb business, you think they have the money to hire people? You think they have the money to hire cleaning people and managers and this and that? Of course not. They're starting off with 1 or 2 properties max. They don't have much and they're trying their best. And this brings me into the next thing, Airbnb co-listing. Airbnb co-listing is this scam or this BS that these people were running ads on YouTube saying, hey, you know what the best new thing is? It's called Airbnb co-listing, where you find Zillow properties that haven't sold in a long time. You message the Zillow property owner. You tell him, hey, I'll furnish the property. You don't have to worry about it. We're going to list it on Airbnb. Well, guess what? Once again, these are real issues that come into play, which is the local laws. The local laws are things that you cannot control. That's first off. Second thing is, I mentioned here the costs. Airbnb at one point in time was a phenomenal business to run, once again. But now, it's not the same game anymore. Okay? The costs. There was this guy on YouTube, I can't remember what his name is, some Asian dude. And he tells people, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your day job, you're going to make your money, you're going to get a loan, a secondary loan on your home. You're going to take that money, and you're going to now invest in another property for Airbnb. It's the worst idea in the world. Okay, what if people don't book for 2 months? Then what? Now you've got 2 mortgages, you got all kinds of risks, you're losing your actual home that you took a secondary loan on. It lacks, people who do this kind of stuff lack intelligence. And the truth is, if it wasn't for the people who lack intelligence, these kind of scammers, and I hate to say the word scammers because I'm not about that life, but these kind of scammers wouldn't get rich. Because they're fooling people into these ideas that these kind of certain businesses would work. The truth is, you don't have to get into momentous amount of debt and cause all kinds of problems in your personal life so you can make a lot of money online. That's not the case. Most of the businesses that I have started have been very low investment businesses. And it takes ingenuity and creativity to grow these businesses quite significantly. It doesn't take, loans and debts and all kinds of, kind of terrible situations to be in. I'm not going to expose who actually said that. First off, I don't remember his YouTube channel name, but even if I did, I wouldn't expose him. But if you look hard enough in that kind of world, you guys can figure out who I'm talking about. And he told other people, if you don't own the actual, your own home, you're renting, then just take a whole bunch of credit cards that have 0 interest for like the first 12 to 15 months, and then put them as down payments on secondary property for Airbnb. It's just a foolish game to play. It's too risky. The average person living who's taking in that advice and goes out and does it is not going to have the gumption and the chutzpah to be able to pull off the business. They're going to get screwed in the end. Okay, next one. Amazon FBA. Amazon FBA at one point in time was a phenomenal business to run, maybe about 10 years ago. Amazon FBA is really not the way to go. And I'm speaking as a person who had an Amazon FBA account with 3 successful products on there. And my whole story is I started off with Amazon FBA, couldn't make a single dollar, switched to websites, sold my products through websites after a very long journey of learning how to actually make it happen, made money with doing that. Then I learned and understood that marketing is my trick, went to then Amazon FBA, created products on there, did the necessary marketing, got the reviews up, got the sales, then sold the Amazon FBA business in its entirety. So here's the thing about Amazon FBA that almost nobody tells you before you're about to start. Amazon FBA business is about, for the people who are actually profitable, which are not many, the people who are actually profitable, 90% of the money that they make gets burned in expenses. 10%, if they're lucky, is profit. And if you're really like a genie, if you're really, really good, about 15% profit, if that. So the truth is with Amazon FBA, majority of the business is not profitable. I would never go into a business logically if somebody told me, hey, you're going to spend $90 to make 10. That would be stupid. I would never do that. Or, excuse me, you're going to spend 100 to make 10. That would be the stupidest idea ever. I would never do that. Once again, but people don't know this when they get into these kind of stuff, into these kind of things. So they might buy products overseas, they'll take a few courses, they'll do X, Y, and Z, and then next thing you know, they're starting to get some Amazon sales, but in order for them to do that, they have to run ads. That costs money, shipping, storage fees, getting Amazon FBA, getting gated. I mean, there's tremendous amount of issues. If I'm going to put all my energy into something, it better be 90% profit, 10% expense, not the other way around. Okay? Now, one of the things that I noticed with Amazon FBA is when you actually create a product that's very low competition, very quickly, very, very quickly, people with more capabilities than you will come in, they'll replicate the business, and they'll just create a different version of the product and sell it. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, well, what about patents? You can get a patent. Well, there's only a few kinds of patents that exist. You have utility patents. You have other kinds of patents. I'm not going to go ahead and list them out, but you only have a few kinds of patents that exist. And patents don't cover everything. They don't cover the purpose of the product. They don't cover things like that. They cover only how the product can be made, what its function, things like that. So the reality is once again, there are people out there in this world that have much more capability than you and me. And they exclusively go out there, find businesses in these low competition markets, and they triangulate and they kill your business off. This is exactly what Starbucks done. Starbucks, the way that they actually grew in their business model, which is kind of predatory, but hey, this is America, so oh well. What they would do is they would find these mom and pop coffee shops that couldn't afford to lose money every month. But Starbucks could because they had millions of dollars in investment in angel funds. So what they would do is they would find a mom and pop coffee shop and they would triangulate. They would place 3 Starbucks stores somewhere in the vicinity of it, right? And they would be willing to lose money every single month on all 3 of those stores until that one store goes out of business. And once that one store goes out of business, now all the rest of the profit is divided amongst the 3 Starbucks stores. And those 3 Starbucks stores would stay in business because Starbucks was never a profitable enterprise. It was an IPO game. People who don't know what an IPO is, it means when it hits the stock market, the company instantly becomes more or less valuable. In the case of Starbucks, it became more valuable, infinitely more valuable. Why? Because people are pumping dollars into it through the stock market. And so if you look at the numbers behind Starbucks, its growth is not because of the performance of the business. In fact, the business doesn't actually perform that well. It's because of the investment, the hype, the promotional, the marketing, all these kind of things. And then what happened is Starbucks kind of grew a name, and most of the money that's actually made in profitability on Starbucks is overseas. It's not even in the United States. So, anyways, basically, I diverted, but the point is that's what happens on Amazon FBA. So for the rest of my life, I'll never sell a single product on Amazon FBA again. There's no purpose for it. It's low profit. I have to do all this kind of sweat equity. I got to buy the product. I got to connect with the overseas manufacturers. It's just a disaster. You know how many people lose money and get scammed sending money to some guy in Philippines or India or China or wherever? They send their Western Union, they send their last 10 grand, they never hear from the guy back again. This happens over and over and over. I got lucky. I honestly have no clue how it actually all panned out for me on Amazon FBA. I really have no clue because that first time that I sent my life savings over, and I was like 18 years old or 17 years old, something like that. I think 18 years old, sent my life savings over through Western Union, some guy in India or Pakistan. That guy could have just walked off, never shipped off anything. And not to mention, 50% of the product was actually damaged through customs, but that's a whole different story for another time because they thought we were smuggling drugs. But the point is that this whole business is riddled with problems. Riddled with problems, you shouldn't touch it. It's just a marketing ploy. You have to understand that a lot of the times, a lot of these businesses that are pushed in front of you are pushed because it's a product to sell. The business itself is a product for whoever that person is that's promoting it. And the business is actually not nearly that profitable. So let's go to the next one. Real estate. Real estate, let's be clear, it's not an investment. It's not a business. It's an investment. That's what real estate is. I want to be clear. Real estate is not a business, it's an investment. You hear all the time people say, I do real estate. That could mean anything. That could mean you're a real estate agent. That could mean you're a property manager. That could mean that you buy real estate. That could mean that you develop real estate. That could mean you have renters. That could mean you do Section 8. That could mean so many different things. So let's be clear about what real estate is, because once again, amateurs in business don't understand this. Investing in real estate is not a business, it's a tax shelter. Okay, that's its primary purpose. If I made, let's just say, $20 million in a year, and I didn't want to pay more than half of it to the New York City and federal government, what do? I put that money into real estate here in New York City, and I basically offset my tax burden, my tax bill. So instead of me paying $12 million in taxes, I'll end up paying 1 or 2, but the rest of the money that I would have paid would have been in real estate. And then that real estate would pay me money every month. Then what I would do is I would do a cost analysis study, or a deductive study, and I would show through paperwork what it costs to run this property, from property managers to lights to utilities to property tax, to the interest on the mortgage, to the damages that are being done that need to be fixed, all these kind of things. And the government allows me to do something called depreciation. And what that means is I take the property value, I divide it by 27.5, and that's the number that I get to deduct on top of all my other expenses. And therefore, that is how I protect the money that is put into it. Now, second thing that people have to understand is that real estate doesn't actually cash flow that much. Unless you're Floyd Mayweather and you're buying, $200 million buildings in Manhattan, you really don't cash flow as much. Why? Because that's just the way properties are. If you do any basic research, literally pick a property on Zillow and break down the numbers. Think of how much you would put a renter in there for, how much money you would make off of it, and really for about, let's just say, every $250,000 that a property is valued at, you're probably going to get maybe $300 to $400 in cash flow at the end of every month, which is, by the way, a high number. Most people don't even make that. Most people might make 200, 150. So, for example, if you have a house that costs $1 million, which might not be even a good idea to buy in the real estate world, but let's just say you buy it and you put a renter in there for God knows how much their rent is, you're going to take that $250,000 on, like say a proportion of 300, you might be making about $1,200 in profit, or not profit, cash flow a month, because cash flow and profit are two different things from a tax standpoint, and that's important to understand. But the secondary purpose for real estate is having a protective shelter as well. And what do I mean by a protective shelter? Each property, this is what logical people do, people in the real estate world understand this, who have anything of any notable value, is you put your business, that property under an LLC. And we talked about LLCs before. We talked about how to create them at the cheapest price. We talked about business bank accounts. These are things I talked about infinitely. But real estate is a protective measure, or you have to have a protective measure towards that real estate so that you have essentially a shell around it. This is why I said it's a asset shelter. What does that mean? Well, if you have a property under an LLC, and that LLC is controlled by a trust, which is given to a separate beneficiary, it's effectively untouchable. Because if somebody wants to sue you personally, they can't get access to the property. Does that make sense? Or, the value that it costs to buy that property. And this is also another scam that people tell you is when you get a property, right, you can pull a loan on it, and that loan, you could just do whatever you want with the money. That's not true. You can't just do whatever you want with the money. You can only use it to go buy more property or to make repairs on that current property. You can't just do whatever you feel like it. It's not free money. right? They say, oh yeah, the whole point is instead of, taking your 200 grand and and putting it in your pocket and buying a car with it, which you're going to get taxed on. Instead, take the 200 grand, put it in a property, get the income from that property. Then after you get the income from the property, you take a loan out on the property after it gets reappraised, and the loan is going to be worth the money that you put in. And then with that loan money, you could just buy a Lambo instead of, buying a Lambo straight out with the cash, because income is separate from debt, and money that you get from a loan is different. The truth is, once again, you just can't buy whatever you want with that money. It has to be property related. So you now also tie yourself in. I'm the type of person where I like to be fluid. I don't like to be controlled by anything. And if you buy real estate, you're going to be controlled. I would only really recommend real estate for a few people in the world. The first group of people is families who are very wealthy and they have children. That's number one. Why? Because you get to pass on that real estate, those assets to your kids. By the time you're dead, and the property would probably be paid off. And if it's paid off, that means it's cash flowing for your children. And let's be honest, if you're a very high earner, the chance that your children are going to be successful is slim to none. Let's just be 100% honest. Especially because, they're used to a cushy lifestyle. Everybody knows the story of the Porsche baby, right? The kid is born into a family. He's rich. He gets his Porsche when he's 16 years old. He has no motivation to work. He starts taking drugs, and the family's just fighting to keep him alive so he's not suicidal. And then they throw him a big birthday party when he gets sober, and he has no accomplishments in life. We all know that story. There's nothing crazy about that story. And that's the story for a lot of rich kids who are born rich, trust fund babies. And part of the reason why we call them trust fund babies is because they have trusts. They have trust funds. They have money secured for them because their parents know that they weren't born in the gritty situations to make them successful. Success comes from pain. So the point is that if you're very wealthy, you're worried about your kids, they're not going to be successful, whatever, you buy real estate, you hold it, you put it in certain trusts and funds for your children. Your children will then acquire those properties. You could even set some rules in those trusts to say that those properties can never be sold, and the cash flow given to the children. And, it creates an income flow for your children. That's one. Another thing, or another person who can make money off of this, a real estate kind of situation, is somebody who's a handyman, right? Maybe they worked a job being some engineer somewhere. They hate their job. They have no online skills, but they have some handyman skills instead. They can then own property, buy as much property as possible over time, get those properties fixed. Because, like I said, they have no internet skills. They have no money-making skills online. So then it makes sense to buy real estate. All right? So for the handyman. But other than that, it doesn't really make sense to buy real estate. And remember, buying real estate or being involved in real estate is never a business. It's not a business. It's an investment. Very different. An investment and a business are two different things. Next, okay, and this is the last one I want to kind of go over. Exclusive Amazon affiliate programs. This is one of the worst ways to make money online. If people knew truly how easy it was to make money through affiliate marketing, they wouldn't be going through Amazon. Amazon used to be good back in like 2006. It's not good anymore. People get 2.5% commission, 3% commission, 4% commission for a product they're selling. If you sell a product for $100 through affiliate marketing, you know how much you're going to get? You're going to get a 2.5% commission, 3% commission. That's $3. That's $2.5. What on earth are you going to do with that? Nothing. So you could be selling the exact same product, get 4 or 5 times more the commission on a different website, just outside of Amazon. That's all it is. So you see videos and ads all the time of people pushing Amazon affiliate program, Amazon affiliate program, Amazon affiliate program. And it has its allure because people look at Amazon, they say, Amazon is the biggest marketplace in the world. Of course it would work. And then next thing you know, you sign up to be an affiliate. It might take you, 180 days to get your first commission after trying so hard because you don't know how internet marketing works. And then finally, after you get your first commission, there it is on the screen. 15-cent commission, 9-cent commission. And you're looking at this, you're like, what the hell? I just worked for 6 months and I'm going to make 4 pennies? What is this? So where am I going with this? Basically, just find companies that would promote the exact same thing, Find those companies outside of Amazon, promote those companies instead. Something that I will say is people might say, well, didn't you do Amazon affiliate marketing at one point? The answer is yes, but there's a difference here. When I had my blogs and my websites and I was doing Amazon affiliate marketing, I had to include Amazon because my customer base was asking for it. Let me explain. I had a website called Treadmill Review Company. It was one of the largest treadmill review websites on the internet. We reviewed treadmills. We'd make over $1,000 a day in commissions. Okay, I've shown screenshots on my blogging websites. This is basic, common stuff. Okay, and people were asking for like a Peloton review or a Nordic Track review or whatever of a certain treadmill cost $4 or $5 grand. Okay, fine, we did that. But then there were treadmills that cost $400, $450 on Amazon that people wanted reviews. You couldn't really go anywhere else to buy them as somebody who's getting affiliate commissions. So in order to have a good website, I had to then go to those certain places, buy those products, and review them. Now, here's the thing, guys. The thing is that I only did that after I reviewed the companies where I was getting the high commissions. You see what I'm saying? So for me, Amazon was just something secondary. It was definitely not the one paying the bills. It was just to get the viewers in there. For every one commission that I got through Peloton, it was probably equivalent to like 1,000 commissions through Amazon. It wasn't even comparable. So sometimes you do it just for stature on your website to continue ranking. But I just got a text. Sorry about that. I got distracted for a second. But yeah. All right. So now you guys kind of get some of these ideas. If you have questions on different business ideas, let me know in the comments down below. I want to run through now the best business ideas. Supposedly this is a tier list here. Let's go ahead and get it started. Okay. What is this? Tutoring? Tutoring is okay. Why? It's respectable. You're not going to be trading. You're not going to be making a lot of money necessarily, unless you're like tutoring physics or chemistry or something difficult like that. But tutoring is generally low pay. That's why I put it in the okay category. OnlyFans is trash. You're selling your soul, so definitely not. OF management, same thing. You're selling your soul. This looks like fitness or personal training. I'll put it in the good stage because you can make a little more money than tutoring, once again. SaaS means software as a service, balling out of control, for sure. Ads management I would say, is trash. I'm going to put it in the trash category because, once again, all the people that do ads management, if they knew what they were doing, they'd do it for themselves. So, I mean, the reality is that either you don't know what you're doing and you're charging like $1,500 for some company to do ads management for them, and they're going to fire you after a month anyway because you don't know what you're doing. You're going to waste their money. Then you're going to owe them the money back. Or you're just making $250 million every 6 months running ads for NVIDIA. I mean, which one is it? So ads management is trash. I would not do it. Print on demand, I would say, is okay as well. Actually, let's put it in the good category. Why is it in the good category? And we're considering this print on demand, meaning print on demand marketplaces. It's good because you can post stuff through AI automation. You don't have to do any real work, and you can print cash over time. You might not make a lot, but you can stay relatively profitable, low amount of effort. Not bad. And really, print on demand is very, very simple. Zero difficulty on print on demand. Next one, video editing. I'm going to put it in the okay category. Once again, because you're trading your time for money. And video editing is one of those things that you can make a lot of money, but it takes a tremendous amount of effort. That's why I put it in the okay category. Flipping, I put it in the trash category. I'm not going to buy a product for $50 and hope that it sells for $75. So that's a crap business. I would never do that. Sales is in the trash category as well, because sales alone will get you nowhere in life. You need to have multiple skills. This is not 1997. You need to have multiple skills. The internet exists where people need to be multidimensional. You need to know sales. You need to know copywriting. You need to know payment provider connections. You need to know website building. You need to know how to build products, how to sell products. You have to know how to do everything. So sales is trash. Alone, it's worth nothing. Copywriting, same thing, trash. If you're just going to go up to business owners and say, hey, I'm going to do your copywriting for you, you're not getting anywhere in life. You're going to keep working these dead-end jobs, per se, online. You're going to keep getting paid crap money because you don't have enough skill to bridge the gap with other skills. You're not going to be able to just make money off of copywriting alone unless you're very well known for just purely copywriting. Most people that make money in the copywriting world are people who are either A, very well known, or B, have succeeded by creating their own product, selling it, than other people hiring them, i.e. a guy named Onyx Singal. Onyx Singal charges $500,000, $500,000 to do copywriting on one page. Why? Because he's made hundreds of millions on his own products. So, yeah, copywriting alone is worth nothing. Same thing like sales. Virtual assistant services, I already talked about this, but it's modern slavery. Wouldn't do it. Now, I'll hire virtual assistants, which really, I hired many in the past years. Now, I'm not hiring as much because AI is replacing them, but would I actually do it myself? Never. Day trading, baller, okay. Info products. Info products, if you know what you're doing, I would say it's baller status as well. Actually, no, I'm going to put it in balling out of control. Let's see, what is this? This is social media. Social media, I would say, is baller as well because you can make money while you sleep. The only drawback is that you have to have some sort of core advantage. Either you're good looking or you can get a lot of attention through your skill or your voice or something. You have to have some sort of advantage. Okay, drop shipping, I'm going to put it in the okay category. It's not what it used to be. Right now it's overblown. Many people have gotten through it and failed. Not because the business is a failure, but because they really have no idea what they're doing. They're just trying this rinse and repeat strategy of like buying a product, filming it, going through TikTok. And if they're not doing the TikTok method, they're doing the Facebook method. Most people have no clue what they're doing. So drop shipping, it's really trash for most people. I don't recommend people to start it unless you actually have real business experience. You know how to do copywriting. You know what it takes to sell somebody. You know how to shoot product photos. You know how to do all those kind of basics. YouTube, I would say it's in the baller category because I category with social media. So pretty much the same thing, which by the way, I am teaching people how to create YouTube channels that are small channels that make money through our members area. So if you want to learn about that, I'll leave a link in the description. We teach so many things on our members area. Amazon FBA, once again, this is the devil incarnate, so trash there. Affiliate marketing, we talked about it. I'll put it in the baller category. You just have to, once again, be discerning. You have to know what to do, you have to know which one to pick. Bitcoin, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the good category because it's not just Bitcoin. I'm assuming it's all crypto. A lot of people get scammed because they don't know what they're doing. Once again, intelligence is power. The more you learn, the more you earn. So people will buy some crap coin, try to do a transfer on different blockchains, and next thing you know, they lost all their money. People get scammed all the time through crypto. It's not something that's understood as much, and people get into it. They dive deep into it, and to be honest, if you're doing like crypto trading, there's high fees, so it's not really a way to trade optimally. It's more of like an investment play, so I'll just leave it at good for now. What does this say? I don't even know what this says. This says SUR. What is SUR? I'm going to assume it's leads. So lead marketing, I would put it in the okay category for now. But yeah, so hopefully this video helped. If you guys have questions about business models, if you're not sure what to do, message me in the comments. I've been through so many years of business, it's mind-boggling. And I'm still relatively young. I know what it feels like to be, I don't want to say broke, but be in a very bad financial situation when I was 17, 18, working endless amount of hours, being in college, not really doing well for myself. But I also know what it feels like to get rich pretty early. So if you guys have questions, put them in the comments down below. Okay? We'll talk about it. But hey, if you want to learn from me and join my members area, you get access to free software, you get access to different business models. I'll teach you everything I know. My members area down below, Passive Income School, where we focus on diversity. We focus on making money from multiple different paths. That's why I say diversity. And we focus on making money while we sleep. So you do the work necessary, you do it right, you get paid over time. We focus on achievement, we focus on success. And really, it's a stoic kind of emotion behind it. You know, we're not really here to pander to people. We're not really here to give you a pat on the back if you're losing in life. We're here to help you and make you become more successful through information. So I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video is helpful, entertaining. I'll see you soon. All right, peace out. Bye.